Hello and welcome to another video from Prepcoms UK. It's going to be a fairly quick video as I'm just going to give you a basic introduction into the Baofeng UV-5R radio, which is widely used for prepping, wild camping and other outdoor pursuits, survivalism, that sort of thing. They're cheap, they're easy to program, they're relatively easy to use, and they can be heard over a reasonable distance as well. So I'm going to talk to you about those. I've got one to unbox for you, but I'm just going to very briefly talk to you about legality. The information I give you today is for you to digest and use as you see fit. Any law breaking or anything else is down to you. It's up to you to make sure that you're licensed to use the radios in the way that you want to use them. So, for about £20 you get one of these from China. Is it the best radio on the market? No, it isn't. Not by a long chalk. There are much better radios out there, but they're also more expensive. You can have radios like this. One on the right is an ICOM and the one on the left is Anytone. ICOM is Japanese, Anytone I think are Chinese. The Chinese have flooded the market recently with cheaper radios. However, the Anytone is very good. You're looking at a market price for these of between £140 and £200. The ICOM is something like £400. They're very good radios. They do everything that the Baofeng does and an awful lot more. The main difference, apart from quality, is that they are digital, so they can talk in plain speech like the Baofeng can, talk to each other in plain speech, or they can talk to each other digitally. Now, these two use two different systems. This one uses a system called DMR, this one uses a system called D-Star. From home, if you want to use them, you can get to speak to other people all around the world by using repeaters and the internet. If you want to have a repeater at home, you can make your own, like this one here. It's a Pi-style computer with a little radio on the top of it, and it receives the signal from these radios and transmits it around the world via the internet. Now that's all very well and good until the internet goes down, the power grids go down, and then you're stuck. So start at the basic end. Buy a radio that you know is going to work to the guy down the road, the family the next town over, and the Baofeng UV-5 will do that. So for £20 or just under, if you're paying anything more than £20 then buy it somewhere else. You get an instruction manual, you might as well throw that away. The radio itself, which is really quite small. If you put it in your palm like that, it's just not big at all. You also receive a battery, a rechargeable battery. Inside the box is an earpiece and microphone. I've never actually used one of those, so I don't know if they're any good or not. There is a belt clip, fairly substantial. There is an antenna, a little lanyard so that you don't drop it, and a charging base with a USB connector on the end. So we've all got spare USB chargers laying around. They will do the job for you, and then the radio sits in there and charges up when it's not in use. When you've got it in there, do not transmit. It's not good for it. Some of the older radios have got a similar charging base but have a mains plug on the end. So let's get those out of the way for now. And here's one I prepared earlier. This is my own Baofeng. It's got a larger battery pack on it, which you can buy off eBay for a few pounds. You buy them off Amazon as well. Obviously if you get them from a UK supplier you're going to pay slightly more, but they'll turn up quicker. If you buy them from China, then they're going to take a little while. So this is one of the variants of the Baofeng UV-5. This one is the UV-5R TP, and all that really means is that it's slightly more powerful. It says on there triple power, and it's got a maximum output power of 8 watts, whereas the normal UV-5R has an output power of 5 watts, and that's absolutely fine. Put that back on there. When these radios arrive, they are pre-programmed in the factory to a whole bunch of channels that you do not want to use in the UK. They are all over the place. Some of them are military frequencies, and I can guarantee you that if you use a radio straight out of the box, then you're going to be upsetting people pretty quickly. When you go to prepper meets and you go wild camping, you'll meet people who have got these radios and they've never programmed them. They are just asking for trouble. Okay, there's a whole bunch of frequencies that you can use. Okay, there are ways to get trained to use other frequencies perfectly legally, and really I would recommend that, but we're going to speak about that later. So, just walking you around the radio, on the top is the on-off and volume. There's a light which is pretty pointless. There's an antenna socket. Go over to the side. The orange button is programmed mainly to turn on FM radio so you can listen to music. Beneath that you've got the PTT button, or the transmit button, and beneath that you've got what's known as a monitor button, and what that does is it lowers the squelch on the radio so that you can hear really weak signals. On these radios and on other radios they have a squelch which basically stops you going crazy from the background noise and the hiss. So I'll demonstrate that for you. Okay, so it's nice and quiet at the moment. You press that button. If you had that on all the time, it's very distracting. So in the radio you can program where the silence kicks in and it cuts the noise off. Okay, that's a really useful feature to have. You just don't want to have that noise on all the time. So if somebody nearby transmits, they present to you a really strong signal, and that will cut straight through the squelch. And sometimes if you get a signal in the background that's not coming through that clearly, it might hover just slightly under the squelch and jump above slightly, and you'll get an intermittent receive. And what you can do is press that button and hear what they're actually saying. You can program the LCD colour. I quite like the blue. You've got a keypad on the front for entering frequencies. You can program these radios via the keypad. I wouldn't recommend it, it's incredibly annoying. And you've got this button, the AB button, so I'll explain what that does. On the screen you can probably see two lines there. Both are different channels. One is more superior to the other. Okay, so if I was to press transmit now, I would transmit on the lower line, which is the 2 meter calling channel, and that's because that little mark is next to it on the left hand side. If I press AB, it goes up to the top. Alright, and I would then have that as my main working channel. It would still allow me to receive calls on the second channel, okay, but the priority one is the one at the top. Volume at the top, and again it'll turn the radio off for you. So around the back you have the belt clip, the charging points, and the battery release. There we go. Let's talk about antennas for a moment. The radio comes with a stock antenna. It's not great, but it does work. You can buy other antennas to put on there which will work much better. this is one that I would recommend. It's a lot longer, and so you can decide whether you're going to look like an idiot or not, but it fits onto the top and it will improve the receive and transmit for this radio, and it's quite noticeable as well. The antenna's made by a company called Nagoya, which is Nagoya, and the model number is, I think it's a 771. So if you do a search for Nagoya 771 on eBay or on Amazon, that'll do you. Okay, but make sure that you get one with that plug on the bottom of it. There are male and female. This one, just selling something on eBay there, this one is the one you want for the Baofeng. Okay? The only issue I found with those larger antennas on these radios is that you need to make sure that there's no gap when it's screwed in, because what it does is, as it wobbles around, it puts undue force on top of the radio. So that's not great, and it could potentially lead to breakage of the radio. So when you get an antenna, make sure it comes with some rubber washers, little grommets that you can put around here and stick it on. Okay, and it will just hold it all nice and firm. If it doesn't come with those, then you can use tap washers and just cut a slightly larger hole out, and that'll work absolutely fine. So that's the antennas taken care of, well, almost taken care of. There's one thing I forgot to mention. If you're at home, you can set up an external antenna or an antenna in the loft, which again will give you a much better reception and transmission. In order to connect your radio to that antenna, you're going to need some adapters. This is one, and this is the one that you need for the Baofeng. It just screws into the top like that. And then the plug that's on the end of your antenna cable literally screws onto there, and you're good to go. There are some technicalities about antennas that we'll have to go into in another video, but for the purpose of this video, then that's all you really need to know. Let's talk about batteries for a moment. This is an extended life battery that I bought from Amazon. It is good, and it makes the radio last an awful lot longer than the battery that comes with it. However, I'm not decrying the battery that comes with it, because that works just fine. Other accessories that you'll need, for one thing that you will definitely need is a programming cable, which is one of these. If you're going to buy your first radio, make sure that you get a programming cable to go with it. I'll explain in another video how to use it, but it will make your life so much easier, and for the sake of £4 or £5, it's well worth it. Also, sometimes they just throw them in anyway, so make sure you get one. You're going to need it. Another accessory is the external microphone, which may or may not come in useful for you. It plugs into the charging port, sorry, not the charging port, it plugs into the programming port on the side of the radio, like that. Okay, it has a little clip on the back, and what it does is it allows you to speak into this rather than holding the radio up to your face, and also the sound that comes out of the radio comes out to this as well. So that really is a basic rundown on the Baofeng UV-5R. I'm going to go into more technical aspects in a future video, but if you're just getting into this, go and buy one. It's worth having. There are other people in your prepping group who are going to have one. You're going to come across other people who have them too. They're just really essential pieces of kit. If you enjoyed the video and found it of use, then please do consider buying the book. It's available on Amazon as a paperback, or as a Kindle book. It's only a few pounds. It's worth every penny, I promise you. There's a Facebook group, PrepComms UK. You have to apply to join it, but we'll have you straight in and we'll have you up and running in no time. So thank you ever so much for watching for now. I'll be back with a future video. Hopefully I won't have a sore throat that time, and I'll catch you soon. Take care. Bye bye.